Welcome back to Empowerment and Illness. I am Goyen, your host. Today, we're focusing on a topic that affects us all, how a diagnosis can initially impact your sense of self. Throughout our lives, we're living with many identities: wife, husband, mom, father, sister, brother. What happens when you're given another identity? You are someone with a chronic illness. When you first hear that diagnosis, it's like the world just pauses for a moment. For me, hearing you have lupus was one of those moments. It felt as if suddenly my whole identity shifted. I wasn't just Gwen anymore. I was Gwen with lupus and later Gwen fighting breast cancer. This initial shock isn't just about the physical illness. It's about everything that comes with it. Suddenly, there are new limits to learn, a new language of symptoms and treatments to understand, new side effects to cope with, and inevitably, a new way of seeing yourself. You might start questioning, am I still the same person? Can I still be who I was before this diagnosis? Let me paint a picture for you. Imagine you're someone who loves to be on the go, always active, always social. Then one day, you're told you have a chronic condition that means you have to slow down. You can't keep up with the pace you used to without consequences. It's disorienting, right? It can be downright devastating. You might feel like you've lost a part of yourself, a part of what makes you, well, you. And it's not just internal. The way others see and treat you can change too. There's a visible shift in their eyes when you tell them about your diagnosis. Some people might begin to treat you more delicately, as if you're suddenly fragile. Others may pull away, unsure how to interact with this new version of you. It's like you're suddenly wearing a label with chronic illness flashing in bright red letters that everyone can see, and it affects how they perceive you. For those first few months after my diagnosis, I felt like I was living in someone else's story. I went from being Gwen, the party goer who loves to dance, to Gwen, the patient. Every decision, every activity had to be weighed against the potential impact on my health. It was exhausting, not just physically, but emotionally too. When the doctor said the name lupus or breast cancer, it felt like a label had been slapped on me that read patient or sick person. Over the years, dealing with lupus and breast cancer, I've learned that these labels come with weights I don't have to carry forever. But here's the key takeaway. This shift in identity is not the end of your story. It's a twist, a turn, or even a bump in the road. It's okay to mourn the part of your identity that you lose, but it's also a chance to discover new aspects of yourself, perhaps one you never knew existed. Let's talk about how these moments can redefine us, but not diminish us. Initially, there's this intense focus on the illness. You're trying to find as much information as possible. You're learning about treatments, medications, symptoms, and side effects. It's easy to see yourself solely in those terms. Your life starts orbiting around doctor visits, hospital stays, and managing symptoms, which can feel like you're losing pieces of who you used to be, your hobbies, your social life, your dreams. For example, I used to be an avid dancer. Love dancing. I still do. But lupus meant that some days my joints were too swollen, too painful. I felt like I wasn't that person anymore. But here's the thing. I learned that while I had to adapt, I didn't have to give up dancing. More on that later. Let's talk about navigating that tricky shift in self-perception after a chronic illness diagnosis. It's where we are rewriting some of our stories. We tell ourselves about who we are and what we can do. This isn't about denying the realities of our illness. It's about expanding our identity beyond it. When I was first grappling with lupus and later breast cancer, my sense of self was really shaken. I felt diminished, less capable. I started to believe what other people thought. I was a sick person. But here's something important I learned. Your illness might dictate certain terms, but it doesn't have to define your entire narrative. Now let that lesson marinate for a second. The first step in this navigation is acceptance. And let me be clear, acceptance is not about giving up. It's about acknowledging the new reality and figuring out how to live well within it. When I accepted that lupus and cancer were part of my journey, not the entirety of my existence, I began to see them as parts of my life puzzle, not the puzzle itself. For instance, accepting lupus meant acknowledging that I had to manage my energy more carefully. It meant that while I couldn't go dancing all night, I can still enjoy dancing in more manageable, less physically demanding ways. This brings me to the second step, adaptation. It's about asking, how can I adapt my passion to fit my new reality? You might have to adjust your social activities. Instead of going out to late night parties, you host movie nights or small get-togethers at home where you can control the environment and keep things comfortable. For me, this meant dancing in short moments or dancing around the house when I could. I also started dancing while sitting in a chair. If it became too much, I watched movies, read books, and played games on my phone. The third crucial step is redefinition. This is where you really start to reclaim your identity. You find new areas where you can excel, new hobbies that you can fulfill, or new ways to connect with people that don't hinge on your physical capabilities. For example, when lupus flares up, I like playing video games and games on my phone. It was something I can do on my good days and bad days, something that allowed me to express myself without draining my energy. And let's talk about how empowering it can be to connect with others who are walking a similar path. Engaging with the community of people who understand what you're going through can help reshape how you see yourself. They reflect back to you not just the struggles, but also the strengths and triumphants of your journey. You found your village, and you don't feel alone. You're not just a patient, you're a survivor, a warrior, a source of support and inspiration to others. Lastly, let's touch on the power of storytelling. Sharing your story, whether through blogs, podcasts like this one, or even just among friends and family, can define your identity in powerful ways. It reminds you and tells the world that you are more than your illness. You have stories worth sharing, insights worth giving, and a life worth celebrating. Creating a new narrative starts with the stories we tell ourselves every day. For a long time, my story was, I'm Gwen and I'm sick. But I realized that while my illness is part of me, it's not the entirety of me. I started to shift that narrative to, I'm Gwen, I have lupus, and I battle breast cancer. But I'm also a mom, a wife, a daughter, a sister, a friend, an advocate, and so much more. How can you start crafting your own narrative? By embracing new roles. Look for roles that become a part of your identity. Maybe you can't be a marathon runner anymore, but you can be the marathon organizer or the team cheerleader. These roles allow you to participate and contribute in new ways that are just as fulfilling. By exploring new interests. After my diagnosis, I turned to activities that were gentler on my body. I took up paint by numbers and reading Jane Patterson's series on Alex Cross. These weren't just hobbies, they became vital parts of who I am. They allowed me to express myself and interact with the world in ways that didn't strain my physical limits. Today, I have a podcast. I can connect with people on social media. It allows me the opportunity to find people who are dealing with an illness or condition, connect, and we can inspire each other. By connecting through sharing your experiences, you can be incredibly powerful. When I started the podcast and discussing my journey, I connected with people who echoed my feelings and struggle. This not only helped others feel less alone, but reinforced my role as a contributor, not just a consumer in these conversations. By educating and advocating, one of the most empowering aspects of redefining your narrative is becoming an educator or advocate for your condition. I found that advocating for others not only built my confidence, but also helped me meet others who looked up to me for guidance. By reflecting and adapting, remember, your narrative isn't static, just chapters in a book. Your story will have twists. Regular reflection helps you adapt and embrace these changes, ensuring your narrative stays true and relevant to your evolving life. By building this new narrative, you start to see yourself in a different light. You're not just surviving, you're crafting a life that's rich and full. despite and sometimes even because of your chronic illness. This new story doesn't ignore the realities of living with the chronic condition, but it incorporates them into a larger, more vibrant picture of who you are. Each new role or hobby you adopt weaves complexity back into your identity, filling in the gaps left by what you had to let go. This last part of our journey today is all about maintaining your identity amidst chronic illness. It's one thing to define ourselves in the face of health challenges. It's another to continuously nurture and maintain an identity over time. This is where the real empowerment happens, day in, day out. Maintaining your identity amidst chronic illness is an ongoing process. It's about celebrating small victories and acknowledging setbacks without letting them define you. Each morning, I decide that today, my illness will not be the CEO of my life. Sure, it might be a stubborn manager, but it is not the boss. Let's dive into some ways you can keep your sense of self strong and vibrant. Celebrate small victories. Every day might not be a good day, but there is something good in every day. Marinate on that one too. Did you manage to meet a friend for coffee despite feeling low? That's a victory. Did you find a new recipe that keeps your diet on track and tastes great? That's another victory. Celebrating these small victories help reinforce your identity as someone who achieves and overcomes, not just someone who suffers. Set realistic goals. It's important to set achievable goals that align with your current abilities. Goals give us direction as a sense of purpose. Achieving them boosts our self-esteem. Maybe it's as simple as organizing a drawer or as significant as completing a work project. Whatever it is, let it be a reflection of your capabilities, not your limitations. Keep connections alive. Maintaining relationships is crucial. These are the people who see you for you, not just your illness. They're your reminders of the many roles you play: friend, family member, mentor. Staying connected, whether through regular check-ins, social media, or community groups, help maintain a sense of normalcy and belonging. Pursue passion projects, whether it's crafting, writing, gardening, or volunteering. Engaging in activities you're passionate about can keep your spirits up and reinforce your sense of identity. These activities not only bring joy, but also remind you and others of your interests and talents beyond your health issues. Embrace adaptability. Flexibility is your friend. Some days will be tougher, and you might have to adjust your plan. But rather than seeing this as a setback, view it as a strategic move. Adapting to the day-to-day fluctuations of your health teaches resilience and shows that you are in control, not your illness. And let me add, maintaining your identity also means allowing yourself to evolve. Our lives are dynamic. Our identities are fluid, and sometimes the changes brought by chronic illnesses can lead to growth in areas you never expected. Perhaps you develop a strong sense of empathy, or you discover a new skill because of your adapted lifestyle. These changes are part of your story too. Before we leave, I would like to close with a special portion of the show I call Healing Heartbeats. This is where we allow ourselves to wallow in sorrow. Give yourself 3 minutes to laugh, cry, scream, cuss, or just sit in silence. Whatever you need to do to feel, do it. Let the depression in for only 3 minutes. Once you've reached 3 minutes, compartmentalize it and get back to living. This is a rinse and repeat behavior. You cannot let depression take over, because when you do, it will not let go. When we hear about the passing of someone, they have the day they were born and the day they passed away. There is a dash in the middle. It's not a long line, but it's a short dash. That dash represents your life. Go live in spite of having a chronic illness. Don't let it stop you. As we close today's episode, I want to leave you with this thought. You are not your illness. You are a person with a story, with dreams, with love to give and joy to experience. Keep writing your story. Keep defining and redefining yourself. You are a whole world of experiences, dreams, and successes. I hope you feel inspired to think about your own narrative. What new roles can you embrace? What new interests can you explore? How can your story inspire and connect with others? Hey, every day is a new opportunity to affirm who you are and who you can be. It's a new page, and you are the author. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Stay strong, stay vibrant, and stay you. Until next time, remember, you have the strength, the heart, and the support to continue your journey. Be safe.